Welcome to World News by Denis Halandzovskyi. If you value calm, fact-based analysis of global events, please subscribe and leave a comment. Today's report focuses on a deeply concerning development in Ukraine, a campaign of power outages tied to Russian attacks on energy infrastructure, and how this reality is shaping both life on the ground and the diplomatic search for peace. Recently, Ukraine has experienced widespread and prolonged power outages in major cities and regions. These blackouts are not random, but the result of sustained Russian military action targeting key energy infrastructure, including power stations, transmission networks, and fuel depots. The aim appears to be to undermine civilian morale, disrupt essential services, and place additional strain on government resources. For ordinary Ukrainians, the effects are tangible and severe. Families face hours without heating, lighting, or access to electronic communication. Hospitals and clinics operate on backup generators, while businesses struggle to maintain operations. Schools and offices must adapt schedules around rolling outages. For citizens already coping with war, displacement, and economic hardship, this adds a layer of everyday crisis that impinges on quality of life and social stability. Officials in Kyiv and energy sector experts stress that Ukraine's grid has shown resilience thanks to rapid repairs, decentralized backup systems, and international support. Still, the disruptions are a clear tactic in Russia's wider campaign, one designed not only to impact militaries on the battlefield but to influence the societal fabric of a nation at war. By attacking infrastructure that touches every aspect of civilian life, the Kremlin effectively broadens the battlefield. These strikes send a message that the war extends beyond front lines to the everyday experiences of millions of Ukrainians. This expands the psychological and economic toll of conflict, potentially eroding popular support for prolonged resistance if circumstances worsen. The blackouts also complicate governmental functions. Essential services, from water systems and transportation networks to public administration functions, are strained under increasingly unpredictable conditions. Maintaining energy reserves and managing load shedding has become a logistical priority, forcing authorities into constant crisis management. Beyond its immediate physical impact, the campaign against infrastructure has political utility for Russia. By making civilian hardship more acute, Moscow seeks to influence Ukraine's calculus on peace negotiations. This tactic, commonly referred to as coercive diplomacy, uses non military pressure to shape the strategic environment. Power shortages become leverage, public frustration becomes a potential bargaining chip. The impact of these deliberate attacks on energy infrastructure cannot be separated from the ongoing diplomatic efforts to achieve peace. Ukrainian leaders have consistently maintained that negotiations must occur from a position of strength, not under pressure, nor in response to fear, discomfort, or coercion. Arbitrary strikes on civilian infrastructure directly challenge this principle. International partners, including European states, the United States, and NATO allies, have condemned attacks on critical infrastructure as violations of international humanitarian norms. They argue that civilians and the systems that support them should be protected even in wartime. This position contrasts sharply with Russia's strategic use of infrastructure degradation as a tool of pressure. At the same time, calls for renewed peace talks continue. Diplomatic teams emphasize that any durable settlement must address not only the cessation of formal hostilities, but also the restoration of key systems necessary for a functioning society. Electricity, water, communications, transportation, all are essential for rebuilding and stabilization. Ignoring these needs risks crystallizing conditions of dependency and desperation, rather than creating a foundation for long term peace. For Ukraine, participating in peace talks under conditions of infrastructure sabotage presents a strategic dilemma. On one hand, open dialogue that might reduce violence and pave the way for restoration is desirable. On the other, entering negotiations from a position of acute civilian vulnerability risks legitimizing methods of coercion rather than preserving principles of sovereign integrity and justice. International mediators and observers are aware of this dynamic. In recent discussions, representatives have emphasized that peace must be negotiated in a context that respects basic human needs and safeguards civilian infrastructure. This suggests that any future agreements will need not only territorial and security provisions, but also mechanisms for reconstructing and protecting critical systems. Moreover, these developments have illuminated the broader geopolitical stakes. Russia's campaign to target infrastructure is not unique to Ukraine. It reflects a pattern seen in other conflicts where technological, economic, and psychological tools are integrated into military strategy. Democracies around the world are watching how Ukraine responds, both on the battlefield and in diplomatic arenas, as they consider implications for broader security doctrines and alliance cohesion. The moral dimension of this conflict is also central. Attacks on essential services thrust the humanitarian impact into sharp relief, reminding the global community that modern warfare extends deep into civilian life. As peace negotiations evolve, the ability of nations and international bodies to balance military strategy with human protection will shape not only the outcome in Ukraine, but also the norms governing future conflicts. Thank you for watching this report on World News by Denis Halandzovskyi. If you found this analysis informative, please subscribe, leave a comment, and share your perspective. Independent news and thoughtful discussion help us understand and respond to global crises. Stay informed and see you in the next update.